Welcome to the shop. Today we're going to take a break from our regularly scheduled flush cutters and take a look at something that we got. We got a nice Fluke meter here. It is sold to me by somebody and it was not working. So let's see if we can figure out why it was not working. So what we got is a Fluke Meggar. Comes with a whole bunch of leads. We shouldn't be needing them right away. So we'll put that out of the way. So this is a pretty nice Meggar. You know, we did the Klein Megger series. You can see this has got the wrap on it yet, and it doesn't turn on. So let's open it up, see if it's got batteries in it, see what's going on, and take it from there. Okay, I had to pop this thing loose, get the meter out of its case. There we go, meter, and looks like somebody's had to go at the screw to close the battery box up. That's not encouraging. Let's turn that to unlock. And let's see here if we can get this thing open. There we go. Okay, it's got batteries in it. It's got the fuse, so we could have a bad fuse, we could have dead batteries. I'm really happy to see that that battery was loose. I'm really happy to see that this does not have a bunch of corrosion going on inside. So I think what we'll do is we'll get another Fluke meter out to test our Fluke meter. Let's go to DC. See what we got through our batteries. We've got 5.8 volts. That's not good. Let's see here. 1 point. They're all pretty equal. Oops, there we go, you can see that. They're all pretty equal, so that's probably not, I mean, it may be a little low, but that's probably not our problem. Let's go here to here, see if our fuse is good. The fuse appears to be good. Okay. We did have a loose battery there. Let's just turn it to the on position. Haha. So there seems to be some loose connections with the batteries. So let's take the batteries out. We'll put new batteries in, and we'll just double check and make sure all these connections are clean. But we did. Oh, I even accidentally turned the light on. That's like a nice remembrance of indigo, isn't it? Comment below if you remember that. So, okay, neat. So I think we got this working, maybe. We're going through ranges. And I actually don't formally know how to use this one. I didn't read anything. I just figured I'd see if I could get it turned on. So let's, yeah, see? It's not turning on again. If I wiggle the batteries in the back, I can get it to turn on. So we got some loose connections. If that's all that's wrong with this, this was a steal. Alright, day has changed. You'll notice we're wearing gloves. I like to get these old batteries out and see what these battery terminals look like, because it seemed like if we move the batteries around, we would intermittently lose connection. Now this one seems to have less tension. So if you look here, this one's bent out pretty far, pretty far, pretty far, not very far. That battery's not sitting under a lot of tension. None of these connections look especially bad. We can clean them up. A good thing to use is a a pencil eraser. You can just kind of hit it. It's not very abrasive, but it's abrasive enough to just kind of lift off any dirt that may or may not be on there. And that's what we're going to just do here quick. Just hit that. I don't know if you can see that we're getting them cleaner. Just go over, oh, let's hold that so you can see. Just go over that. See, that's working pretty nicely. And this one here. So what we'll do is we will get a screwdriver and give that just a little bit more tension. Let's see if that helps up. We just have a screwdriver here. Let's just give that a little bit more bend. That actually resists being bent pretty good, which is good. It's good. I'm going to squeeze it here at the top so that you're not going to see what I'm doing, but that's going to allow me to bend that and not completely goof it up. I'm just pushing down right where that comes over so I can put some more bend in it overall. And now we'll be able to see everything's kind of close. And let's see how our batteries feel. That doesn't feel too bad. Let's try one the same way. About the same tension. And let's see if it wants to turn on. Okay, so you can see, still not really wanting to turn on right away. Is that a delay? Does this thing want to just take a minute to boot up? Maybe it does. Let's do that a few more times. Wait a little bit. Not touching anything. It does seem to take a little while to turn on. So I think we got it. There was a little bit of dirt in here, not a lot, and that one terminal was bent, so that may have been what the problem was with this thing all along. If that's true, that is really good news for us, because this is a nice meter. So now what we kind of want to do is verify this meter against a known source. So we have our Klein meter that you may have seen in other videos. I think what I want to do is get a motor, and we'll test the motor with both and see if we get similar results. So here we go. We've got the old Fluke 87 out of here because it's done yet another good job and helped us out metering our new Meggar here. And we have the Klein and we have the Fluke 1507 here. I think both are going to be very capable meters, very nice, but there is a little bit of nuance between both. First off, we'll talk about the voltage scale. The Klein lowest test that you can do is 125 volts, 250 volts, 500 volts, and 1000 volts. And that's perfectly great for most things. We've been using this here in the shop on old tools when we get them to test the insulation. I do not want to go over that 125 volt rating because the tool is not rated that. We do have a few 240 volt tools, which is where the 250 volt test comes in. Again, when you use a Megger, you can do damage to what you're testing. So you do want to be fairly close to your voltage range. Some things are spec'd for going higher, but know what you're testing. A lot of old stuff, you really want to keep it low. Now the nice thing about the Fluke 1507 is it's even got a 50 volt scale. So you can test more things. And for what I do here in the shop with older stuff, that lower scale is going to be great. So we have 50, 100, 250, 500, and 1000. So that's really nice that we have both scales, or I should say that we have an additional layer to the scale. Both meters top out at 1000, but the Fluke 1507 goes lower. Another thing I like to look at is convenience factor. Both meters have an optional magnet that you can get and put on them. There's the one here for the Klein, and then obviously the one for the Fluke sucked right to it. There's the one for the Fluke. So that's a handy feature for both. Another thing is the leads themselves. I do know from the comments that some people have left that Klein has upgraded their leads, but the Fluke leads are always nice and flexible. And I do believe this isn't Fluke, but this is what your Fluke alligator clamps look like. Now the Fluke 1507 also has a probe, and the neat thing about this probe is that it's got this connection. Now that connection, you can see how the ports here look. That is actually a switch, and you can remote test with your fingers touching here when you jam that in. So you can set this up on lock, hit the test button, and then complete the circuit yourself. Then you don't have a hot pokey bit flying around here that you can get your fingers into. So that's a nice safety feature for this meter. I don't know how much I'm going to use this. Most of the time I clamp everything on so I don't have to get my fingers near it. But this is a super nice feature. If you're out in the field or something like that, it makes an awful lot of sense. Speaking of the lock, both meters have a continuous lock option. Super handy to have. This is a 4000 mega ohm maximum scale. I believe this is a 11 giga ohm scale. That doesn't make this a gigger, it's still a Meggar. But this is a higher resolution and a more finite test. So a little bit better meter there. But price points, I mean, we really are comparing lemons and oranges, apples and oranges, whatever you want to say here. That they aren't in the same league at all. This is an awesome entry-level, affordable Meggar to get great results. This tool is probably 3 to 4 times as much. So it was really cool when I found a deal on this. It was pretty exciting. But we'll just kind of look at them and see, you know, in some ways we can talk about, yeah, this is a nice tool. It costs a lot, but is the Klein, how does the Klein stack up to it? I mean, we looked at the Klein with some of the older Meggers that I had here. This is a more modern contemporary, albeit a much higher price point. You still get a lot of functionality out of the Klein. So I wouldn't talk bad about anything we see here. Saw a little bit of it earlier, but let's just turn on to voltmeter on both here. And both meters have a backlight. The Fluke has that nice indigo-y green as we saw earlier, and the Klein has the standard, you know, more whitish, bluish backlight. That's super handy for both meters to have. It's kind of understated. It depends on what work you're getting into, but it really is nice to have a backlight for these meters. If you're working in a dark area or at night on something, the backlight really comes in handy. It seems trivial, but when you're really getting into things, you're really glad to have that when you have the option. Another important thing to consider is the category rating of your meter, and both are category 600 volt, or yeah, category 4 to 600 volts. Now the Klein says category 3 to 1000, but I believe the Fluke is as well. It just doesn't say it. The Klein has individual settings for voltage AC, voltage DC, continuity test, and resistance test. So a little bit more of a multimeter function here. This Fluke, I don't believe, does AC and DC. I think this is just a DC meter, but I could be wrong. Let me check that quick. So doing a quick check, I think this might be auto ranging to select AC or DC once you put it on the voltage test. So I believe this meter also does both. What else we got here? So a nice feature with this meter is that it has a pass light. So what you can do, and we'll just move it to 50 volts. We have our leads separate and not touching anything. Nobody can get into them. And I believe what you do here is compare. You pick 100K, 200K, 500, 1 meg, 2, 3, 2, 5, 10. So I believe this would be our highest test. The meter leads are completely open, off screen, but they're open. And then when you hit test, you'll get a green light saying that we indeed passed our test. So that's nice. It's a quick, easy visual cue that you passed your test, whereas this one you kind of got to know you got to read it just like you would have had to for all the year prior. But this is actually a nice feature. If you're doing a lot of these, sometimes it's easy to miss a decimal point or something like that if you're distracted or just the monotony of doing a lot of tests. So really nice feature. You know, you can just kind of set it, go to the green light, and you know you got it. So we got a motor here. This is actually from an old threaded pony that we're in the process of restoring here. Probably eventually see something on it, but let's I haven't done an insulation test on this motor yet, so I happen to know blue and white are a field and red and black are a field. So what we'll want to do is not get wires in the frame, is we'll want to meter between all of these and ground, and then and we can verify that blue and white are a field and black and red are a field. We should get a short between these two and these two because they are a winding. And then you should not get anything between, say, the white or the blue and the black and the red. You'll see. But let's do similar tests with the Klein and the Fluke. Now the Fluke I've set to the 5 megohm scale because that should be the same as this 4000 megohm scale. I think it's just kind of the translation. So we have both meters to their 100 volt equivalent setting. Let's see what we get here. Be kind of curious to see what we get. So we'll put this on our ground. One nice thing with these Klein boots is you can really jam that over and not touch anything. Now, this is going to get a little goofy because we're going to have to keep all these separate, but we will see. I'm just going to hold them in the air so that they're nice air gap on everything. Don't worry, my finger's not that close to that. And all we're going to do here is hit the test button. Hold it for a little bit. You can see that slowly climbing, but I think you get the idea. We got about 470. We'll let it go very slowly here up to 470. There you go. You get the idea. Now you can see the voltage decreased. This will tell us how much voltage is on this, and you don't want to take anything apart until afterward. That has decreased. So that's 470. Let's test the black wire. Here we go. And it takes a little while for the meter to charge everything up. That's not at all uncommon. You gotta hold the button in for a little bit to let it do its test. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll hold this until it gets up to about 470 and we'll say that's good, and we'll go on to the next one. So there we go. That one tested good. Making sure we're at 0. Going on to the white. Everything's separated. Here we go. That goes to full scale. That's interesting. That went to full scale very quickly. Let's go to the black. This one's going to take some time to climb up. Now, because this is a field, we are energizing the other wires here, so you got to make sure everything's separated. And again, we'll let this climb up to 470 nice and slow. So there we go, that's a good test. If we would have kept going, that would have kept climbing slowly. I'm satisfied that that's not a dead short. So that's a good test on that. Now, we should be able to, because this is wired for reversing, so the fields are changing that way. So we should be able to test black to white and not get a short. See if that's true. Full scale, that's good. Black to blue. Let's see what we get. Making sure everything's separated. It is. Full scale, that's good. Now, just for the fun of it, we should get a short when we go to the red. Yeah, that's a short. That's what we want to see. So now we do the same thing again, except we'll go over to the red. Now we probably already know, because we tested, we know black and red go together, but let's just, for sake of being thorough, white to red. Full scale. Wait for our voltage to go down there. And then blue to red. Some of that may be how I'm clamping that on there. Just trying to keep everything out of frame here. Blue to red. And that's going right up to full scale as well. So we got a good test on this motor. Now let's compare that to, let's do the same test with the Fluke 1587 and see what we get. So let me get these leads for the Klein meter out of the way here. Now we'll have our ground right on our frame bolt there. And let's put right on the red. I am holding the other 3 wires out of frame, but they are separated. And let's see what we get here. I don't know if you can see that. We've gone to full scale, and we are at a pass. So that's nice. I guess getting the finite comparisons is going to be a little hard between these two because the way they operate. I was hoping to get like the same reading between them, but I guess that's not going to be as easy as I'd hoped. Let's do the same test here. Full scale. Tells me I passed. Let's go to do the white. keeping everything separate. Do the same thing here. Full scale tells me I passed. Make sure our voltage goes to 0. Keeping all of our wires separated from each other. Let's just get that out there a little bit. Same thing here again. Full scale tells me I passed. Now this is only a 100-volt test. It says we're doing 111 we're putting in. If you recall here, I think we're putting about 130 in. It's okay. Let's go. So blue to white should be a short. Let's just verify that. Here. Not putting any voltage in. Still says it. We didn't get anything out of it. So that's a short. So let's go blue to black. Full scale. Pass. And blue to red. Full scale. Pass. So we're getting a good test with this. Let me just play around and see if I can get the similar reading between the two on something. And we're back. So I did a little research. We also did a little testing. You can see both of these meters are turned on. And while I was doing research, both of which timed out and turned themselves off, which is good. It saves the battery for when you forget to leave it on, like I just did. So, when you do a 100-volt test on the Fluke 1507, the maximum scale is going to be 100 megohms. You only get to that 10 gigaohm test when you are in the 1000-volt scale. You will get to 500 megohms in the 500-volt scale, and 200 megohms in the 250-volt scale. The 50-volt scale is, as you guessed, 50 megohms. So, this meter only really exceeds the Klein meter on the 500 and above volt test as far as how far down on your insulation you can test. The interesting thing is that the Klein meter tests to the 4000 megohm, or 400, is it 400? I don't, it's 400 megohms, I believe, to the 4000 scale on all of the settings. So you actually have a little bit more resolution in the lower voltage settings if I'm reading all of this correctly. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a lot, because chances are if you're only at the 100 megohm setting, you're really only going to need you're not going to have a short. It's a good test. Anything beyond it's not really gaining you a lot, if that makes any sense. So guys that do this a little bit more than I do, if you're hearing this in the comments, let me know which one of these would actually be better. I don't know that it really matters, is where I'm going to stand on it. I mean, you get down to that level of resistance, it might help you a little bit for troubleshooting, like conductors and things like that, but chances are conductors, because they're 600 volt insulation, you would be doing the 5 or, well, industrial conductors, let me back that up. You're going to be doing the 500 or 1000 volt test anyway, so at that point, the Fluke would have a better resolution than the Klein. So either way, both really good and effective meters, but that explains why we didn't see the same scales on the two meters, because at the 100 volt test, this actually goes to a little bit higher resistance than this in the test. So we did a little research, and it looks like the Klein meter actually has a little bit better, higher resistance test on all of these scales, with the exception of the 1000 volt scale. The 1000 volt scale is the scale that the Fluke will go to a higher resistance than the Klein. If I'm reading this wrong, anybody in the comments correct me below. It looks like the Klein will go to 4,000 mega ohms in any of the voltage settings. It appears the best you can do with the 50 volt setting on the Fluke is a 50 mega ohm. 100 mega ohms is the best you can do on the 100 volts. 200 mega ohms is the best you can do at 250. 500 mega ohms for 500, and 2000 to the 10 giga ohm for the 1000. So if I'm wrong on that, feel free to correct me. I'm new to the Fluke meter. I just got this completely on a whim because it was cheap, because it was broken. The point of this video was just kind of to play around and test it out to see if we did indeed fix it. I think the difference in scales explains why I did not get the exact same readings between the two meters. So I'm fairly satisfied I have a properly functioning meter here. That's really good news. I mean, we got a smoking deal on this thing, which is pretty exciting. So I'm satisfied we got the meter working again, and I think from here I'll continue doing some tests between the two meters, and we'll see if we can learn anything else about them. I think both meters are great. For the money, you cannot go wrong with this Klein meter. It's really a great meter. I have nothing bad to say about it. For what I paid for this Fluke meter, you also can't go wrong. So, super excited. It looks like we got this thing working. It's kind of neat to compare contemporaries. I know we looked at some other older meters here with the Klein, but they were of a different era, let's just say. Anyway, I thought this was just kind of an interesting look back and forth between the two. Both very capable meters, both great meters to have in the shop. I'm going to probably continue to play around with both and see if there are any other pluses, minuses between them. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.